Hello, and welcome to Mind Perspective Mondays. Wow, I hope you guys had a great weekend. I see all your smiling faces out there. I hope you had a great weekend. Say welcome to our cast. Hey, so glad that everybody's here. Awesome, everyone. We have a great topic tonight. We're going to talk about the best and worst movie sequels, okay? I've seen some great movies out there, and then I've seen some that just need to just kill it. After the first one, that's it. So, but we're going to talk about that tonight. So be thinking about best and worst movie sequels, and make sure you comment into the chat live, all right? Because we want to know what you're thinking. All right, let's move on. Okay, people, jump on in there. Mark, what you got for me?
All right, I'm primed and ready. I've been thinking about it all day, and this is for the benefit of our producer, who may be off camera right now. But I'm going to mention first off, it's much easier to name the best ones as opposed to the worst ones because most of the sequels are terrible. All right, and we don't even
Right.
go watch them
Hmm.
because we know in advance they're terrible. But the probably the best movie sequel was Godfather One and Godfather Two, and yes, and the reason is because Abe Vigoda, who played a supporting role in The Godfather, the first movie, makes a return appearance at the very end in Godfather 2. And so therefore, Godfather 2 is every bit as good a movie as the first Godfather movie. And none of you know what the hell I'm talking about, but Keone knows. But I'll just say that The Godfather and the Star Wars movies were among the ones that hit it out of the park as far as sequels go. The
Mm,
rest, most of the rest of them suck.
I could definitely agree with you on that Star Wars movie
Yep,
trends. I
I was
mean,
going to say the same thing.
Rogue One, probably one of my more favorite ones. But then also what I can't forget is Mission Impossible movies. Probably had
Mm.
some of the best sequels I could ever have pictured. Just after one after the other, just having top of the line starring casting, right? Henry Cavill, Simon Pegg, you name it. Like every single movie has top notch actors and actresses in it by far. In that aspect, I think Mission Impossible has some of the best.
I love Mission Impossible, especially, with, Tom Cruise trying to do all those movements. I'm saying, how did he do that? How did he do his own,
Special
stunts? It's just
effects helped.
awesome. I loved it. And the Godfather. Mm, Godfather. I just love
You know,
They,
Tom
they,
Cruise is 60 years old at this point, right? So he's still making these action movies and 60-year-olds just jumping off buildings and everything, but he's getting up there in age, but still being able to hang with the big boys out there.
well, that and having some stunt guys that back him up helps too, and some
For
special
sure.
effects. But
Right.
The Godfather, even they went too far when they made the third one. The third one came out about 15 years after the second one. And although it did pretty well at the box office, even got an Oscar nomination, they shouldn't have done that one. They should have left well enough alone. And that's usually what they do. They usually take one too many bites at the apple. Even the
Wow.
Godfather.
I
What
know
But
about you,
most
that
of the sequels are
Katie?
terrible.
when they do that, that ruins it for me. I
Yeah.
I absolutely hate sequels. I can't. I try to avoid always watching a second or a third, unless it's a cartoon, because I love cartoon sequels.
Well, and no disrespect to Matthew, and I shouldn't have. Maybe I shouldn't say this. I think I only saw the first Mission Impossible, but the movies that are cartoons and that are filled with special effects and explosions and don't require a whole hell of a lot of acting, you can do those sequels pretty well. All you
Right.
have to do is just match the special effects you had in the first one. The ones that require a lot of acting or complex plots, usually not a good idea to do it. And I remember one of my favorite comedies from the early '80s was a movie called Arthur, with Dudley Moore, which was a great movie, and it had a happy ending, a picture perfect ending. And then they ruined it by coming back and doing a sequel, and they undid the ending of the first one.
Yeah,
Isn't
they
that
always do
something?
that.
I cried for a week, when I heard about that.
Sometimes they just need to just
All
leave it
right.
alone. Weenie, what about you? You
But
got
it's
one for
difficult
us?
though.
Yeah, I really liked the Dark Knight trilogy. I think that was really done well, and I think Christian Bale did a great job because you can see his range of acting abilities. And why do people even watch movies? It's because you kind of want to get an experience. The viewer wants an experience, and so I think the Dark Knight trilogy did a good job of giving the viewer an experience. Are there any movies that you wish had a sequel? For example, like I wish Inception had a sequel. I thought that was a really good single movie. I like the Dreams Within
I
Dreams.
was going to say Avatar, but
I
they
was
did
thinking,
just
Greg,
drop
about
the new Avatar
God,
movie, which just came out 10 years later. Has anyone seen the new one yet?
I
I haven't.
I've
haven't.
heard it's
Good.
good.
I'm excited though because I love the first one, but then I'm
Yes.
Right?
worried because the sequel is always a maybe.
Right,
So
and it has finally reached. I think it was $1 billion that it needed to schedule, make the Avatar 3 movies too. So it's going to be in the next process. Granted, we may have to wait another 10, 15 years for that, but no, I'm pretty excited. I heard great things about it, so I want to see it. Just have to dedicate 3 hours of my life to it, though.
I was hoping they
I
would
have a
do a
question.
sequel to a great biopic from the early '80s, Gandhi. I was hoping that Gandhi would come back from the dead and kick ass. Call it
Yeah.
Gandhi's Revenge.
Hey, I got a
Yeah.
question.
Cool.
I asked this on Weenie's stream this morning. I feel like sometimes when a first movie is so good, we overlook the second one. Like sometimes I've gone and looked at a sequel that I didn't think was particularly good. And when I just watched it again and paid attention, I was like, this is actually pretty good. I just judged it based on the first movie.
Compare.
That's a good point.
Yeah, good point.
Very good point.
Expectations.
Right. It
That's
reminds
true.
me of Jaws. I mean, after they killed the big one, the big shark. I mean, what do you say? Is his babies or something coming back? His wife or what's going on? I mean, leave it alone. I mean,
Well,
can
like
you
they
really?
did, but they what they Hollywood does this over and over again. They do it not only with sequels but with remakes. They
Yes.
take good movies and try to remake them or make sequels of them instead of taking bad movies and trying to improve them.
Right.
They did that with
Yeah.
Jaws, and the sequels to Jaws. I mean, good Lord, how many sharks are out there killing people?
Exactly.
But the first one was great. They should have left
It
it
was
alone.
great.
But no,
It's
it's
the
money
money.
to be made.
Yeah.
Right.
I
I mean,
love
even
So
like Caddyshack too, right? The first one was
Which I
actually
heard.
pretty good, but then the second one, I was just like, you lost me
Well,
after
as a
the
matter of
first.
fact, and Matthew, I did a little Google thing yesterday, I believe it was,
Hmm.
and the list of the 50 or so worst sequels, and that was one of them, the Caddyshack 2. I never saw it.
Seriously
Yeah,
though,
I
because the
haven't
first
seen that
one
one.
was great,
the first
and
one was
then they
pretty
tried
good.
to make a second one out of it, and it was just like,
that, Matthew. What do you think they did wrong?
I mean,
I think by doing it in the first place.
yeah, I mean,
Like,
honestly, at the end of the day, yeah, like they should have just left it alone after the first one, because then they started trying to like another golf tournament, I think it was, and it was just like, what
No, they
else are
did it
you
with
trying to do?
a great movie from
Repetitive.
my teenage years. American Graffiti was a great movie. And they did a sequel to that one, and that kind of stunk up too. But most of them are pretty bad, and most of them are so bad that they've been forgotten. You don't
Yeah.
even know there's a sequel. So that they're,
Hey, you didn't like the 9 or 8 police academies?
Uh-uh.
Wow.
if all you need is a cheap laugh and slapstick stuff, I mean, but that one, some of the Police Academy sequels made that list as well.
Dun, 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 dun,
Talking
I
dun.
about
bet
cheap
you Cheech
laughs
and Chong
too.
did too.
Wow.
Well,
I
talking
mean,
about cheap laughs, have you ever seen? I don't know if anyone's seen it, but Sharknado, and the amount of different, right? Weenie
Unfortunately,
knows,
I've seen
right?
it.
The amount of different times that they made spin-offs on that. We've got Sharknado 5, I think it is, but it was designed to be just such a bad movie that it is actually funny to some people, at least I'd say. But that they kept making more, and it's just like, oh my god, I got to keep watching this. What else is going to happen? What else is next?
Let me pose. I know it's not exactly germane to the topic. I got to ask this: has anyone ever seen what was labeled the worst movie ever made? And I would look at
Oh.
Greg. I would think Greg would like this. Plan 9 from Outer Space.
the who?
Plan 9 from Outer Space.
I
It
don't
came
know
out.
that.
It
I
came
don't
out
know
during
that
the
one.
50s. It was a sci-fi movie, and it was directed by a guy named Edward Wood. And Bela Lugosi, the Dracula character, played in Plan 9 from
I
Outer
loved
Space.
him.
The movie was so bad. It's funny as all get out, and it was named, like in the '80s, as the worst movie ever made. But the silver lining was they did a movie with Johnny Depp called Ed Wood, where Johnny Depp played Ed Wood, director, and it was a story of that horrible movie.
Wow.
So the movie Ed Wood is great. It has Johnny Depp, Bill Murray, um,
Bill
Martin
Murray.
Landau played Bela Lugosi. So a great film. It's a great film about a bad film.
If you
A
have
true
that many
Inception.
good actors though in it, like
Interesting.
how bad can it really be?
So that's how I feel about the Ocean's 11 movies. They have such
Oh,
I
I like
I
them.
yeah, so the actors are and actresses are so good in those movies that it's like I hate to not like the sequels, but they're just never going to be as good as the first one ever.
Well, I agree and I disagree though, Lord
Interesting.
Katie, because I've seen movies. I remember The Exorcist was a great movie. Uh,
Yes.
Yes.
the scariest movie ever
Yes.
made. But they ruined that with sequels, and they did it with good actors. They had in the sequels they had Richard Burton and George C. Scott, fantastic actors, but the movie still sucked.
It just didn't make any sense. It was like, I mean, it was, I understood that, I just like, I didn't get it, I didn't
Yeah.
like it. I liked the first one. It was surprising.
Oh
Can you
boy!
ever beat that surprise effect, with the head turning
But
all
I think
around?
for movies that had surprise endings like that,
Creepiest
scary
thing I've
endings,
ever seen though, without going.
Psycho with Anthony Perkins takes the cake though. And I wouldn't want to spoil it. If you ever saw Psycho for the first time,
Great.
what happens with Anthony Perkins is a great
That
movie.
is
Psycho.
It's
Psycho
crazy.
is one reason why I don't like scary movies. The Shining and Psycho, those two movies scarred
Oh,
me
I
for
love
life.
The
Like
Shining.
Really?
And they ruined
The
Psycho by
they
doing a
sequel
sequel to
for The
that one about
Shining was
15 years
bad
later
too. Yep,
Hmm.
they
And
sure
you know
did.
They even made a
they
sequel
did a
to The
sequel to
Shining?
Psycho as
Yeah,
well.
they did.
Tony
That's
They
Norman
did.
Bass.
I didn't know they did a sequel
Well,
to
again, it's
Psycho.
one of those that was so bad you didn't know about it, so it just
Yeah,
went
Right.
real
exactly.
very quickly.
Probably don't want to know about it. I
But he
mean,
was a
this
great
is
actor.
crazy. What about Friday
Oh, they're
with
all
Ice
great.
T? And
Those are
it's got to be
classic.
one of my favorites. I mean, I just like the
Well,
movie, and then they're gonna keep like it's next Friday, Friday after.
I
Mm-hmm.
thought you meant like Friday the 13th. About those hack and
Well,
slash movies, you can do
that's
those over
another
and
one
over
too.
again.
But I'm talking about Friday. It's just very comical.
Okay, I hadn't seen it.
And then the girl knocks on the door, got a chicken. She was on drugs and all. It was just funny. I mean, you mean what are you gonna do? What are you trying to borrow my car? Most people want to borrow sugar and stuff like flour. You want to borrow my car? Yeah, it's just funny. I just love it. So then they're gonna do the Friday after next and next Friday and all. I'm saying like, let it go, let it go. You can't
Oh,
Let
they
mess
were
me
it
ask
up.
this,
iconic.
but
Those were iconic.
somebody asked
Mm,
somebody asked a while ago about what movies should be remade that hasn't a sequel that hasn't done yet.
mm,
What
yeah.
are some movies that they have never touched and never tried to do a sequel and they never ever should? And I'm
Mm.
thinking about a couple of old classics. One to get Keone out of his chair, I'm sure, get him back on camera, like Gone with the Wind, and then Casablanca. No way they can redo those for a lot of reasons, but
Right.
some movies are so classic they have not dared to touch those.
I
American
think
Gangster.
It's kind of up
I
in the
think
air
Pretty
with
Woman
American
is a
Gangster.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
no. I was going to say I think Pretty Woman is a classic movie, and they still tried.
We lost her.
At least it froze on a cool
Second one.
frame.
Well,
Yeah,
I'd say
right.
I think it'd be Pretty Old Woman by now.
Could you say that again, Katie? We didn't hear
No,
you.
I was just saying they tried to make a sequel to that one, and it was
Mhm.
trash.
Oh, did they?
True.
I didn't know they did a sequel to
I
it.
didn't know.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yep.
Son of the Mask was probably one of the worst movies I've seen in a long time.
Is that Jim?
Was
No,
that the one? They talking about the kid with the mask with Cher?
Yep.
They
Yep.
did a sequel to that. I didn't know.
And
No.
it was with like
The Jim
almost like
Carrey.
the Jim Carrey one with
Yeah.
like a
Right.
wooden mask, and he would
Okay, yeah.
come into like a new thing. Like I think they tried to make a spin-off on it, and it just ended up so bad that nobody even heard of it.
There was another one. He did Dumb and Dumber and did a remake of that one, and that stunk too.
Dumber and Dumberer.
The
Not
first
remake.
one was pretty good. I love the ending with the supermodels. Spoiler alert. Where the
Supposed to
the
say that
supermodels
I
going on
thought
the
the
bus.
second one was okay. It wasn't as good as the first, but it was okay.
Dumber and
Well-
Dumberer.
Yeah.
Well, it just shows you. It's all about making a quick buck. It's like
Yeah.
It's like some filmmakers are they have something to say, and some have something to sell, and more
For
often than not, they
sure.
have something to sell. It's the same thing with people that write books. You
That's
know,
the whole concept of Sharknado. Honestly, it's just like it's so bad, but they keep making more. It's like, okay, how many times can Finn save the world from these sharks that are flying out of a tornado and
Isn't that crazy?
just grabbing people out of the sky? I was like, oh, okay. Like,
The
Movies
whole
I
what
think
what
idea is
else is he
crazy.
gonna do?
I
Like
movie
think though
makers are
if
gonna
Pokemon.
make movies.
if,
But
if I had to name the kind of the movie franchise whatever that has endured over the decades, that's probably the most successful, at least in my view. Not only we talk about say Batman, Star Wars, but the James Bond movies. I mean,
Hmm.
since the early
Yep.
'60s, and now
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
some have been stinkers, and they but have different guys playing Bond.
Right.
But that's a franchise that
that's a
really has
good one.
endured and keeps reinventing itself,
Mm-hmm.
which
I
is very
love
unusual.
James Bond.
Right.
No, they're
Um,
Absolutely.
doing really good jobs with all of
so
them.
Spider-Man, it's like the same thing. You know, it's a
Mhm,
different actor every time. Well, every couple of times, but it's
mhm.
like they just continue to do well every
Well,
time.
yeah, the superhero movies is
Mm.
I would maintain it's easier to do that because I think it does depend on good acting. There've been some good
Yep.
actors who play those parts. And he mentioned Christian Bale. I go back to I think Michael Keaton was a good Batman,
Mhm.
Yes, he
Hmm.
was.
Yeah,
and Arnold Schwarzenegger was. George Clooney was not,
it was a
uh, but
he's
Arnold was a good
Mr.
Mr.
Ice,
Freeze.
Mr. Frost. What is it? Mr.
Yeah, Mr.
Freeze.
Freeze.
Mr.
Yeah,
Freeze.
Freeze. I
that
loved
Arnold
that.
did very well in that one.
That was
I
one
don't
of
think Arnold. I
Poison
don't think Arnold
Ivory.
has ever done well at anything except bodybuilding. I think, and I'm sorry, Greg. I think he's a lousy actor. He was a
Really?
terrible governor. All right,
Oh,
but yet
Yeah,
he's where he is, and I'm where
I
I
think
am. So
he's
I
a
guess I
great
shouldn't say anything.
actor. I do. I mean,
But
I liked him
it
in
depends on the
Mr.
role.
Freeze,
I thought he was
and
a good Mr. Freeze. In
and
some
I
of his
thought it
other
was
roles,
cute.
maybe.
so speaking of him, there's a movie that he's in, with God, it's a bunch of other big dudes like him.
Sylvester Stallone and
Expendables.
Yeah,
Yeah, what is
Sylvester
it called?
Stallone,
Oh yeah,
Expendables.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
there's
thought
three of
That
that
was
those.
cool too.
The Expendables.
the
Yeah,
Expendables, yes.
Yeah,
It was
And they
okay.
had two of those,
Sylvester
right? It
Stallone.
they
was
have
Mhm.
three. There
okay, three, yeah.
Yeah,
three of
three.
them. They
I thought
should.
they
They
were pretty
definitely
good.
should have made three, but they
Yeah, they
made
should have
three.
made three. The first
Right.
one was probably the best.
Yes, first one
As
was
they
best.
always
Second
are.
one was kind of going downhill. Then that third one just crashed and burned. I was
Yeah,
like,
What
yeah,
about
that's
the
good.
pink? What about the Pink Panther? Not the Pink Panther, but the Black Panther. I'm sorry, the Black Panther. What about the Black Panther?
I
also
love
Pink Panther
that
was pretty
movie.
good.
That
I
movie
loved
was a good
I haven't seen the
experience.
sequel yet.
it.
I
It
haven't
was
seen the
good.
sequel. I haven't seen the
It was
sequel.
good.
It was good.
I
I
haven't
need to
seen
see
it
it.
either.
It was really good.
The first one was really good.
Mhm.
Angela Bassett, she did a great job.
But I love
She's
I love
phenomenal.
the female actors in Black
mhm.
Panther, so I know
Yes,
I'll like the sequel because the three of them are just incredible.
it was awesome. I really loved it, and it was very surprise ending. It was pretty cool. But my question is, why? I mean, we're talking about the producers and everybody that actually redo these movies and the writers, but why do we go and see them? Said something about us, don't it? Why do we always want to
Curiosity,
go back?
Well, I don't know. We don't go back to
entertainment.
the sequels because we hear one thing we think they can't be as good as the first one. We read reviews saying how horrible they are, and they don't make very much money. But they keep doing these sequels over and over again, and sometimes they hit it out of the park. But more often than not, we don't go see them.
Ultimately, we want to see where that story is going to take us, though, too. Because right, that
Right.
first movie is always going to captivate us with the story that they have to tell. Black Panther, great
We didn't get
storyline, great
enough.
everything, and then second one coming out, I was like, okay, where are they going to take us next? Let's find out. So I think
Well,
that's
you know,
also
if
why
the couple
people
they
go
get
out to go
together and they
check.
get married, live happily ever after, and then the sequel they get divorced and unhappy and all that. I mean, it's gotta,
True.
That sounds like life sometimes.
and they start paying the bills and everything, and
Facts,
you know
though. I
all
mean,
that.
that's life at the end of the day. But they do a nice spin off on it. It's like, okay, what's going to happen next then?
Yeah, we want to
Yeah,
get. I think very often, Matt, we want to get away from life when we go to the movies. Though we don't want reality.
no, very true. Yeah, we
Sometimes you
want
want
to
But
something
escape
to
from
I don't
something.
know.
relate to, something you can feel.
That's true.
Yep.
That's
It
right.
depends.
Emotion.
Sometimes I want to see real life. Sometimes I want fantasy. You know.
Right. So speaking of fantasy, Twilight
Oh
and
yes.
um what's the other one? That's
Harry Potter.
Yeah,
They
like Harry
probably they
Potter.
won, yeah.
Yeah,
y-
let's just
Those
agree
ones,
on that.
those sequels, they're good, but you expect them because if
The
you
books were good.
exactly, so you
Your
expect it.
imagination is the
Exactly.
The
best.
story's already written more or less for those.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
Game of
That's
Thrones, same concept, right? I mean, you were just kind of in your imagination going back in the day, Vikings, whatever you're thinking, and then just kind of based off the storyline and be in your imagination outside of your normal world, right, Mark? You're trying to get away from escape reality.
well, I'm not really sure my world's that normal anyway, but I think let's say Tom Clancy did kind of along the same lines of the Harry Potter because the Tom Clancy books were good, and some were based on the same character, Jack Ryan. So the movie makers had a little easier time. They just had to follow roughly the plot of the novel, and do a good job with it, and their job's done. So they did a good job with those too. Some of those are very good.
Sometimes they
interesting.
get too rushed, though, too, right? I mean, go back to Game of Thrones. That ending was horrible, but
Oh, I saw one of those and I said never again. I don't see kids killing kids.
I haven't even seen
No.
one. I
Wow.
heard there's boobs
Which
though,
one?
right?
Either.
I didn't hear you. What'd you
Game
say?
of Thrones. I haven't
Oh,
seen
yeah.
that.
I haven't seen any of it.
Mhm.
Don't.
I heard
by
there
the
was
way,
boobs, so
I
maybe
dress up as
None of it.
Jon Snow for Halloween, so come on, guys.
I'm
Oh,
pretty
that's
sure
fine. No, but
you.
I know we
I've seen
mentioned it.
pictures several times.
We mentioned it earlier, but what about Friday the 13th? I mean, oh God, when are they going to kill the man? I mean,
Yeah,
They're not.
Mike Myers
I'm
was
tired.
well,
Uncomfortable.
all the Freddy Krueger stuff too, all the hack and slash stuff is
Right.
just
And the
I can't
Halloween.
it's
stand
absolute
it.
It was the
absolute
I
popular
liked
crap.
when they
era.
had them together though, when they did Jason versus
Collab.
Freddy.
yeah.
Yeah,
I thought that was different.
yeah, that was interesting. The
Well,
movie
that was the only
itself,
spin-off that they really did
the,
for it.
the,
Otherwise, it's just kind of piggybacking
The
off what
same
they
thing
did
over and
last
over.
year. It was like, okay, how many times
Yeah,
can
but
this shark eat this
they do
guy?
the
How many
same
times?
thing with Predator versus Alien. Like
No.
hmm
they,
Exactly.
Godzilla.
people value creativity now. Creativity, back in the day, I feel like they just did what works. Now you need to be a little bit more creative with the movies that you come out
Well,
with.
Greg, I think movie audiences are a tad more sophisticated, and
Mm.
you got to be good with special effects. You go back and watch the special effects of some great movies like back in the 40s and 50s and 60s.
Hmm.
That wouldn't fly now because the quality of that screen we're looking at is a lot more. It doesn't hide mistakes. And people know good special effects nowadays, and it really, you didn't worry about that back in the day. But now we're a tad more sophisticated. That's the one area in which we're more sophisticated, was we can recognize good versus bad special effects.
That's
The
for
acting
sure.
may suck, but the special effects are good.
I mean,
I
Stephen
like
King
the
was just
old
creepy.
special effects.
True, special.
It's
But
fun
you
to
know what?
watch.
Now, let me just say this. Now, when they did the Moses, I mean, now the first Moses they did with Charleston Heston, I mean, they didn't have all that fancy special effect, but the man, I mean, that whoever did those special effects, they were awesome. I mean, then they did the
Moses.
yeah, what is it?
When they did the
Moses.
first Moses,
Yes, the
the
first
Ten
Moses,
Commandments. Oh
the
my
Ten
God!
Commandments.
You
Here
know
we
The
what?
go.
first Ten Commandments,
I
Moses,
haven't
it was
seen it.
tight because
What
you know it,
what was the sequel to the Ten Commandments?
but they redid it again. They
No, they
Listen,
redid it,
didn't.
no,
What, the
listen,
next Ten Commandments?
and
What?
I just didn't like it. I mean, I didn't like the
listen,
There
redo
was no.
of it.
Listen. Look,
I know it
listen.
wasn't
my
necessarily a
Wait,
sequel,
wait,
but I just
wait,
didn't
my
Mark,
I didn't like
friend.
the
Mark,
There
remake.
was no sequel to the Ten Commandments.
I know, but I don't like the remake of it. I just don't
she's talking
like
about the
it.
Chariots of Fire. I don't know.
Well,
It,
because they had all that special effects, the
What
chariots falling in
sequel
the
are you
water.
talking about?
what are you talking
It's
about?
it's the Ten Commandments. It's Moses.
There's no sequel.
I know, but I just
She
thought
said
about
it's
it.
a
They
remake. She
redid
didn't
it.
like the
What
remake.
remake?
They made a new version of it with all the nice special effects and all that stuff, and it could not measure up to
Wait. Are you
old
Was that on
time
talking
TV
about
or
the
stuff.
something?
movie? Wait, are you talking about the movie with Russell Crowe?
That's Noah's
Yeah,
Ark, wasn't
I know.
it?
First of all, Samantha, hush. You're messing up the setup.
I know
Damn.
this is. She's walked
God.
into it.
I
Just let
didn't
us.
realize I have a quote. I have to talk only when you say I can
Oh
talk.
no,
No, but there was
Keone
a
and I are prime
setup
for this.
happening
We
here,
love
and you
doing this.
ran over it. You ran over it.
Okay.
So, she said Moses. She was talking the Ten Commandments. I was gonna say, why are you on here being black? Because older black people, they'll say, like for instance, my grandma. If you told her you had diabetes, she would probably say something like, "That's what you get for being fast." But if you say, "No, Grandma, I got the sugars," then she go, "Oh my God, my baby got the sugars."
Wow. No, I just really like how that the Ten Commandments. I mean, it was just with the water going up like that, and and then they tried to redo it, make a
I gotta
newer
find
version
this
of it.
redo. Because I have never heard of it or seen
Yeah.
it.
See the new version of
They
it.
did the original parting of the Red Sea with Jello, I'm told.
It was awesome the way they did it. I mean, it was simple,
Nice.
and then they tried to make it all fancy. I'm saying like,
I'm trying to. I gotta find this movie.
you got to see it.
Googling
Yes,
it.
it just was
I
not.
love it.
They
Check
had
out
all
maybe
the nice
the
special
next Ten
effects, the
Commandments.
new
Yeah.
The
modernization of
next
all that
Ten
stuff. I'm saying
Commandments.
like,
There are
nah,
actually 20 commandments.
they couldn't touch the original one. It was
So there's
awesome.
only been two Ten Commandment movies, 1923 and 1956. So
Okay. Now there was another one. There was a newer version one. Now I don't know when they did the
Not
first
in the
one,
theater. They couldn't have been. Maybe it was a documentary.
but they did another one with some. I mean, they just went all out in the way with
Was
I
it
special
think you're talking
animated?
about Noah's Ark. They had the
Noah's
giant
Ark,
stuff.
huh?
They had the giant in Noah's Ark.
Oh, they did. Wow.
The Giant.
They had giants. Put
you
them
gotta
in the
remember, in the olden days,
Wait, that was
The
Steve Carell?
antediluvian
olden
civilization.
days, in the olden days, our religion had a lot of things in there that other religions had in terms of creatures and giants, and we kindly forgot about those things. But anywho,
Dinosaurs and
In
unicorns.
the pre-flood stage, they called them the sons of God, the daughters of men, kind of allusion to
Yeah.
mythical
Angels.
figures, people like that.
That kind of
Giant.
reminds me
They
of
all
the
got
movie
washed
The
away
Da
with
Vinci
floods.
Code, though, too. All
Yeah,
talking about
Oh my
the
lord!
Catholic
saw that too.
Church, Last Supper, dealing
We're
with
we're an absolute horror show of a novel and movie.
it's
Oh,
time
I
for
like
the
that.
update, Lisette.
All right, that's right. It's time for Weenie Weekly Update.
All right.
Weenie Weekly
All right. It's gonna be
Market.
nice and quick today. Thank you.
That's what she said.
Uh, Welcome to Weenie's Weekly Market Update. I'm going to be talking about the stock market today. So, what happened last weekend for the month of January? The market went up. It went through its January jump. Markets tend to be strong at the beginning of the year, but when we get into February, markets tend to get just a little bit weaker, and I'm expecting more of a drop into March and April. So that's kind of what I'm looking for on just the overall market. You can look at your 401k. Also, just so you guys know, I did pass my CMT Level 2 exam, which I'm really proud about because it only has a 37% pass rate. So the nerds that take the exam, most of them fail. So you are talking with a CMT Level 3, which is really exciting, and I'm ready to become a full-on chartered market technician. So that's the overall SPY, expecting a little bit more chop into February and then a drop into March and April. And I just want to talk a little bit about inflation as well. This is a graph of inflation. So as you can see, in April, inflation was about 8.3%. In the middle of the year, about 9.1%. That was kind of the peak, and that's what the Federal Reserve is doing. So remember, inflation, when there's a lot of inflation, things cost more and more. And we always hope that wages go up with inflation. They usually don't. But lately, inflation has been downtrending. And if you guys remember earlier on a few Weenie's Weekly Market Updates, I'm expecting some sort of pockets of inflation, like a wave, like a sinusoid wave of inflation. And this is, I studied a lot of economics at Hamlin University, and my models really just tell me that that's likely the scenario. So basically what I'm saying is that inflation is coming down, so things are actually getting a little bit cheaper. So if you're one of those people that likes to stock up on groceries or buy things when they're cheap, buy a lot of your groceries now as inflation is on a dip, and then as inflation rises, you'll have a ton of groceries and other goods and other goods if that makes sense, goods, yeah. And when prices spike, you'll be good to go and you'll have stocked up when prices were low. Right now, eggs are still sky high in terms of prices, just relatively from what they were earlier. But one good thing is oil, the price of oil. This is how much you pay at the pump for gas. This is starting to come down, and I do expect this trend to continue. And so you can actually profit on this by buying SCO shares. This goes up when the price of oil goes down. So this goes up when the price of oil goes down, and you can actually profit off of that, which I think is pretty cool to be able to trade oil. Speaking of inflation as well, check out gold. Gold having a really good run. Gold is usually thought of as an inflation hedge, another asset class. However, I think that this is going to be one of those scenarios where gold, it's already ran up, and I do actually think that gold is going to drop in price. Now, there may be some good spots to potentially buy gold assets, but wait a bit on that and wait for at least another 6 to 7 to 8% drop on the spot price of gold. And lastly, you can buy the price of natural gas. So you don't have to trade just stocks. You can trade commodities, and it's very easy. It's as simple as opening up a broker and investing or buying in these. Again, though, none of this is financial advice. I'm not telling you what to buy or sell. But UNG, maybe another drop of 10 to 20%, maybe at about $7 a share. And I do think that natural gas can get a pump up. And then lastly, I did just want to talk a little bit about how you can actually just open up a broker and we can have a registered investment advisor execute all of the trades, and they're actually approved by me and my mentor Romulus. My mentor Romulus, he's a former hedge fund manager, and he severely outperforms the market. And we team up together, we talk over a lot of these trades, and I put my reputation on the line when I say it's really good and it's really safe. And that I think that if you guys are interested and don't want to trade, let me know. Just email me, send me your email, and we can set you up. You can deposit and withdraw right in the app, and it does all the work for you. He has audited returns of 30% a year, which the average market, a good year in the market is about 8%. Your savings account is about 1%. So that's just another opportunity that is there for you. So that's all I have in today's Weenies Weekly Market Update. Inflation to come in waves, and we're on a down part of the wave. Let's get back to the show.
Wow. Thanks again, Weenie, for that weekly market update, and congratulations on your certificate. And those very good points that you gave us about stocking up on some stuff. This is really good
I
because
love the
I'm
special
thinking,
effects you blended in too. The dog bark, it was great. Yeah.
I'm serious. It really was. As a matter of fact, I got rid of my dog. I threw him out. That little monster, he had the nerve to be
Sold
barking.
it from gold.
He's still barking. They even gave me some medication to give him to put him to sleep. He's like saying, like me, I ain't going to sleep. I'm saying, please go to sleep. I mean, you got me all crazy looking and weird acting and woo. Anyway, long story. Where is that dog? Anyway, okay. But no, do you think there's a lack in creativity why producers and maybe film directors and story writers are not, they have to go back to a previous movie to make a sequel of it? Why can't they just do some new movies? I mean,
I think it's definitely lack of creativity.
I think they need
I think
to.
it's just easy sometimes too when you have that base story and then you can just continue. You've done a lot of the upfront work on creating the first thing. But you're right, it goes back to laziness because you don't want to do the work to create something new.
But also, usually, I think usually when they do it, they probably think it's really going to be good, and sometimes it's good. I mean, the Back to the Future movies were good. I mean,
Yeah.
They're making a fourth one.
the second Home Alone movie was good. It was very Home Alone 2 was very formulaic. It was the same thing as the first one,
I like
but it
it.
was still good because you weren't talking about Oscar material there. It was just light entertainment. People just want to laugh and have a good time. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're
Perfect
right.
risk.
It's
I
But also, it's like this creativity. Also, you know, why reinvent the wheel when you got something that's already working? But sometimes they just go to the wheel, they go to the well once too often. Is all.
This is just
Yeah,
an easy
that's
money
yeah,
grabber at that point
exactly.
too,
Yeah,
right? Just piggyback off of something that's good and just try to make a second one, third one, and then
grab the cash.
other people might be like, oh, well, they made a second or third one of the first one. It has to be good. Let me go see it.
Writers do
And
the
then,
same thing in writing novels. They do it.
yep.
They you know.
hmm so one of my favorite movies growing up was Annie, and now they've recreated that several times. And my granddaughter sometimes, like, she likes to watch it sometimes when she's here, and I'm like, because I cannot stand the remakes of it because I love the original. So it's just hard for me to
Understand.
watch the remakes when they're just
Well, another mistake that this doesn't really apply to a movie like Annie. I remember I saw the original Annie when it came out in the '70s, but sometimes when they try to redo a movie and they try to redo it in the present age and give them present sensitivities and whatnot, and it really stinks. Like back in the early '60s, there was a great movie called The Manchurian Candidate about brainwashing and a political assassination and things like that. They tried to redo it about 40 years later, in the early 2000s, but by that time, they didn't want to offend communists and whatnot. Communism was dead anyway, so they redid that one and they stunk that one up too. Sometimes just, and they have, and it's not so much lack of creativity. It's just certain movies are good for that time period, and
Yeah.
they have to leave it alone. I mean, you could not, and I know you could not remake the movies from say the 30s and the 40s. You know, the Casablancas, the Gone with the Winds, whatnot, because our culture is so much different now. We would not accept the things that were in that movie, and I'm not saying we should, but you know, the things they kind of got away with, if you will, in those movies, we couldn't take them nowadays.
right.
Interesting. What, Samantha? What about you? You have your favorite. What's your favorite movie sequel?
That's kind of hard, honestly, because the sequels, I'm with Katie on it. The sequels are not always really good. So I don't really see a lot of them either. I think Legally Blonde 2 was good. But that's like one of those movies I put on if I need to, like, if I had a really bad day and it just like, and I think Bring It On was too bad. The one was classic and then all five afterwards was just insane.
They brought it on too much.
They
What
did.
do you have a
Well,
movie that you would like for them to do
did
a
it with Rocky
sequel
too.
to? You know,
hmm
I mean, I have some movies that I would like for them to do a sequel, like Dirty Dancing, but the man's dead. You know, it can't do
No.
another sequel to that. I like that movie. You know,
Yeah,
But
I
leave it alone. It was a good movie.
you
Leave it
said
It
alone.
leave
was
it alone.
exactly. That's an incredible movie. They should just never try to do that. They did,
Awesome.
didn't they make a second one of that?
They did
I
actually,
think there
yes.
And it
is.
was terrible.
It
I
was
think
terrible.
with a different cast.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, don't do it. You know, and I think I love the Predator, the original Predator. Shouldn't. I don't know about all this other Predator fighting. What is it? The Alien and all this. Oh, that is the Alien. My favorite, one of my favorite movies, The Alien. I mean,
Where they
I
With
just
parody
love
Sigourney
that
Terminator.
Weaver and
movie.
John Hurt, yeah, Yaphet Kotto, yeah. Um,
I just
What
loved it.
about Ghostbusters? How they
That's
redid it with
another one.
with the women instead.
which
I haven't
apparently was
seen
horrible. I
either.
never saw it, but
You
I
didn't
heard
like
It
that.
this?
was
You
so
didn't like
bad
it?
though.
I never saw
Oh,
it. No,
I
I
thought they
just
did a good job with that.
I never
well, you're
saw
about the only
that.
one, I think.
It was girl power for me. So like I had
Well,
to
I mean, I'm
support
not.
it.
I shouldn't comment because I didn't see it. I just know it didn't do very well.
It made 750 in the box office, and that was that was Samantha.
I mean, like
I didn't see it in theaters.
sometimes they do
Oh,
sequels in
Samantha.
different
DVDs.
nationalities, like they did like The Wiz. So they did like there was the white version, there was the black version. So I like The Wiz. The Wiz is
The Wiz
awesome.
is great.
I mean,
I never
it's
saw the
just like
movie. I
the
saw
Wizard of Oz. I mean,
I,
it's
s- I
awesome.
saw The Wiz on Broadway on stage. I never saw a movie version of it though, and yeah, that was a great. It's a great musical, but I don't know if I really see that as a sequel as much as I do almost an entirely different story.
Not really a sequel, but I guess
That's what I mean. It's
it's
not a
like a
sequel.
repeat, so to say. But whatever.
I
I
want to see
loved it.
the
They did a
Rush
good.
Hour movie,
It's
They
see
not
what
did
really
a
a
they could
good job
sequel.
with
redo
it.
with
Yeah.
that.
The Rush
So
Hour ones were good too.
Right? The Rush Hour, the sequels were good. Like I had real no complaints with it. I would love to see if they could make something with it because it was still an older classical movie. older, to me at least, maybe not so much Mark, but you know, I could
Well,
definitely see them making a sequel and or doing something new, revamping it even.
I
For
think I
me,
saw
they'd
that.
have to have the same actors.
What was the one with Sandra Bullock and
Miss
where
Congeniality.
they were on the
Oh,
bus?
Speed.
Speed,
Is that
yeah,
what?
they remade that one and it stunk
Speed
supposedly. I
2
mean,
too. That was like one of the worst movies that
yeah,
I
one
think
of the
Wow.
I think
worst.
Rotten
Yeah.
Tomatoes made it like top 5 worst movies
Yeah,
sequels.
Mhm.
I think that one of the worst sequel movies ever made was Fast and the Furious.
I
I
know they did too much.
hate
Let it
every
go.
Haven't
single
seen
one
any
of
of
them.
them.
Once they
You
Absolutely
got into
lost
hate
me
them.
space,
after
it was
like
just like, what
2.
are we doing now? It's like we're sending cars up
well,
into space and coming back down.
they went to the well once too often with the Rocky pictures too.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, 7, 8,
You know,
9.
I mean,
Yeah.
like I think there was a joke that
One,
was
two,
out when
three.
Rocky 3 came out. It said, you know, Sylvester Stallone's going to beat up every black man in America before it's all done. Then he started beating up Russians. So it's okay, it made it a little better. So, um,
Yeah.
but there was one they had a good thing and should have let it go after the second one. Yeah. The third one was out pretty good, but because you got to see
They're
Mr. T for the first
inspiring.
time.
Those workout cutscenes are a staple.
I
Yeah,
mean, talking about these movie sequels, it kind of reminds me of life. How sometimes you just need to let some stuff go. Trying to
Yep.
go back into relationships, trying to do it all over again. And it didn't work out the first time, so now you're gonna try to do it again. I mean, some stuff you just
but
need
they
to.
did work out the first time. That's why they're going back.
Well,
Yeah,
but then they're gonna end
usually.
up messing it up again. You have to go back and do it
Okay,
again.
which
Let it
apples and
go.
oranges, relationships and movies. I don't know. I don't quite get a connection.
I,
I
I,
think
I
we're
was
back.
just
I think we're
thinking.
back to
I'm
that
a
Ten
thinker.
Commandments sequel thing now.
I'm a
Do you
thinker.
think it's better to try and fail or to just never try?
I
Or
think you
try to
should
fail.
try.
See, it's a
Try.
tricky question because that's what they're thinking about. Maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Right.
think never try, but then we'd not have any movies, so then it would.
It's tricky.
So,
Right.
It's a balance.
One of my favorites is the Hunger Games series. I love
Yeah,
it.
I read the book.
But I don't know. Do you consider that like a second and a third? You know what I mean? Is that a
Were they
sequel
books?
or is it a series?
They
Yeah.
were books
there were
too,
books,
right?
so yeah, right?
I haven't seen the second
I
or
need
third.
to backtrack because I was insulting Game of Thrones a while ago, and I was really thinking about Hunger Games. And I saw the first Hunger Games movie, and I said no, thank you. I got a threshold of violence. I just especially when it comes to kids, I can't
No.
take it.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
I know it's fake. I know it's not real, but I
Yeah,
don't
but
know.
it sickens your stomach.
Then
It
have
does.
you
It
seen
does.
Maze Runner then, Mark?
Definitely.
No.
Hmm.
No, because that's going to be the
Yeah,
same
that
kind
was
of concept.
yeah,
It's
same
got
thing.
kids going through a maze, death.
And the maze moves,
Every-
right?
Yeah, the
You have
maze
to, like,
moves,
sprint.
and then they made a second one and a third one. I think.
I haven't seen the other ones.
I think
Look,
that yeah,
going way back to the '60s, like Lord of the Flies upsets me because it's got kids killing kids on this island.
Wow.
Interesting story, but some things are just a little bit too much for my effete sensibilities.
yeah.
I think I'm
understood.
transitioning to a woman. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, I'm into more
You're
like
halfway there with that shirt on.
Well, you should see what's beneath the shirt. It's
Censors.
That's for after
Yeah,
the.
spicy. I love it.
wow. I mean, I like mystery movies. I like suspense, like the what is the Bone Collector and what's that other movie? Just I love movies like that. I don't know if they did a sequel to that. But I would probably watch it because I love it. I love
I haven't
mystery
seen it.
movies.
Mm-mm.
You never seen the Bone Collector?
No, I haven't.
What?
What? That was a book,
No.
though. No, that was a book first, right?
Yeah, it's an old
Yeah.
movie. It's old. I mean, not really old, but it's about was it Denzel? He was crippled. I mean, he was
yeah.
he was.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
read a couple of those books. I'm drawing up. I want to say The Alienist, maybe, written by the same guy. Historical crime books.
Those are
I
from
lo- I
like the
love it.
80s, though, right? Like early 80s, The Bone Collector.
I'm
That's
sure.
why. That's why Matthew.
Yeah,
That's beyond my time. I was like, I knew it was a book. I think I saw it. I think my mom had it. And I was just like, I'm pretty sure it was a book.
I don't think I read the book, but I love the movie. I mean, I just loved it.
Yeah.
Mystery movies, so I can figure out who the killer gonna be.
hmm
You know, I love it.
So another, I'm now they're like all going through my mind. The Born, like,
Oh, the Born
Born Supremacy, all
Ultimatum,
that.
Born
Born
Supremacy,
Identity.
all
so
that.
I thought the first one was amazing. The second one, it was okay. I didn't think it was horrible, but I just really like him a lot. So, what's his name? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Jay-
Damon?
Is
Yeah,
it Jason?
Matt Damon.
Oh,
Matt
Is that
Damon.
it?
Matt
Mhm.
Damon?
Good actor, yeah.
What about Pirates
I
of the
remember.
Caribbean?
Love those movies. Absolutely. Can't go wrong with a
Yeah.
single one of
The
them.
first three were good. How many are there? Like 4 or 5?
Mhm.
6?
Five? Although I would say At World's
Yeah.
End is probably one of the shakiest moments of them.
They do a good job, and this gets interesting with Johnny Depp and the whole Disney
I
thing.
think he's coming back too. I
Really?
think there was some advertisements for that about
Oh,
like.
wow.
Well,
I don't think he'll come
I
back.
mean, don't
I
quote me on that. I would love to see. I would love to have him make
so
another
would
Pirates
I.
of the Caribbean movie.
It's
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but he and Will Smith both have an image problem now.
Right.
Yeah.
They may
Potentially.
come back, but it
The
might be.
thing is,
It's
it's
gonna be
I don't know
it
so
still
much
gets
about Johnny Depp
eyeballs.
at this point, but
Like, I think people will see it no matter what their personal lives are, you know?
Yeah,
at
that
the
movie
end
has
of
a
the
good
day,
Wow.
Johnny
follow.
Depp's
Wow.
image was pretty good. So Amber Heard's not so much.
Well, but I think though I don't know, Greg, because I think Will Smith has a movie coming out like Emancipation, I believe, and the powers that be are a little hesitant. They think that it might
It might
his image
flop.
problem, may catch up with him. And it's weird how that works because they do actors do all sorts of outrageous, stupid stuff,
Mm.
and it doesn't do any harm. But then all of a sudden they do one wrong thing that really strikes people the wrong way, and it can affect their image. They have to watch out for that. I mean, so
I mean,
that's why,
don't talk
back in
about his
the
wife.
back in
Yeah.
the 30s and the 40s, the movie studios had morality clauses, and they were very strict on what actors could and couldn't do, and they were very nervous when they got caught doing something that would violate the morality clause because it would hurt their image and people would
Yeah.
not go see their movies.
I mean, it's understandable because when you're in the public eye, you should be wary about what you're accepting, what you're putting out, and all that because
Your role model.
people will
Yeah,
follow
you gotta
that.
kind of
People
put
will
your
follow.
standards a little higher than the average
Right.
person.
But I
Yeah.
think you have to look at each situation on its own. Like, you can't just cluster it together.
But
But
here's the question:
we
should we
live
care?
in such a cancel culture that
Yeah.
that is by far what's going to happen. And it doesn't happen. I don't feel like it happens as much with actors and actresses as it does with sports figures for some reason.
Mm.
Interesting. Good point.
Yeah, 'cause
Well, I mean,
I
my
don't think
question is,
sports
do
players
we
get away with
care?
a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. I think they don't get away with
I mean,
stuff
the-
they
but-
don't
because-
want them to, but then other things get brushed under the rug. So,
But I mean, actors though, I mean, their job is to go up and say lines. I don't care if the person playing the hero is a good guy in real life. I don't care
Hmm.
because
Right.
they're acting. But a lot of people subconsciously say, look, I mean that guy's playing a good guy on screen, so I want to believe they're a good guy in real life. And
Well, I don't want
Yeah,
to support
you want it to
a
match the reality.
So what,
I don't
Keone?
want, I don't want to support a dirtbag. Uh, that's why I always say don't meet your heroes and learn personal things about
I
them.
agree.
Well, the craziest one when I growing up was soaps. My mom and their friends used to be so into soaps that if they met the actual person who was a bad guy in the soap opera, they would literally curse them out. People would do that when they were really crazy about soap operas.
I
Or
did like
I think anything really.
well, there was
No, but that
a
was a
Anything
different
you
kind
really
of
like.
crazy.
there was a
There's
mini
levels.
series back in the 70s called The Holocaust, and an actor named Michael Moriarty played this
2000.
evil Nazi, and he said people slapped his face on the street
Wow.
because they thought he was a
Must have
Nazi.
done a really good job with the role.
He did do a really
Exactly.
good job.
Wow.
But that's really that's
That's
mental
nuts.
too. Because why are you smacking this random guy?
Did you believe
He
that
wasn't
he was
random.
a
He
Yeah,
was
you
a-
believe it.
Yeah,
he
you
was a-
believe
he was a
that
bad
he's
guy. He was a
person.
Nazi, so they slapped him.
That's
Yeah.
stupid.
That's so
Wow.
bizarre to me.
Right.
So I had to explain to my son, he's 15 now. But a couple years back, I had to explain to him, like, these people are getting paid to do this. This is not their, this is not who they
It's
really
not
are.
who they are.
Right.
It's not their image.
Well,
Right.
there was a great, going way back to the Hollywood's golden era. One of the greatest, because we mentioned The Wiz a while ago, and The Wizard of Oz. Is that the woman who played the Wicked Witch, Margaret Hamilton, in real life was, they say, about as sweet a person as one would ever meet. She was an animal lover. She was a librarian. I mean, just the opposite of what she was in the movie. And Mr. Rogers, in his TV show, PBS show back in the 80s, he brought her on once, and to show kids they need not be scared of movie villains. And so here's the real Margaret Hamilton. She's this nice lady, and these movie villains are just make believe and don't. So it's the kind of thing you were talking about. But you have adults who can't force
Do you
reality
think
from
to
fantasy.
play the part well, though, they need to have a little taste of that character in them? Or do you think people can completely detach?
That's a
I
good
think they
question.
can
Because,
detach.
look,
Heath Ledger and the
Well-
Joker?
but not
Yeah,
always. I mean,
Heath
because
Ledger,
there was a
exactly.
Yeah.
well, and look
Um,
in the movie Deliverance. If you saw the movie Deliverance, the guy who played the male rapist, they say that guy was a tad unhinged in real life.
Really? Oh, nuts.
Jesus.
Hey, if you can look at how convinced pro wrestling used to have people, like literally
Right.
the bad guy does something and literally used to be riots back in the day.
And that's
Like
something.
they used to have,
Oh,
they
yeah.
would get so, and that's the sign of a person playing a good heel. When you can incite a riot,
Yeah.
anger 18,000 people,
Right.
that's a good actor.
You're doing a good job.
For sure.
Going back to Jackie Chan, not Jackie Chan.
Oh my God.
I'm blanking on his name right now, but the very famous Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee.
He'd actually carry a gun with him because people would literally be coming up onto the streets
Yeah.
wanting to fight him,
That's
saying like,
crazy.
"Oh, that's not you. You're not really like that. I'm gonna beat you up, whatever." And he'd literally have to pull out his gun. He's like,
Nuts.
Yeah,
"Oh,
because he
wait,
used to
Exactly.
take on,
It's crazy.
he
There
used
was a
to
guy
take
from
on
the
a lot
previous
of
era
fights.
named
yeah."
Lee Van Cleef was a great character actor. Played great villains. He played in
Christ.
the Bad and the Ugly, and he was the Angel Eye guy, Lee Van Cleef. And he said that he had to talk his way out of some fights in bars sometimes. Somebody come up to him, get a couple of belts in him, and say, "You're a tough guy," and all this good stuff. And he had to say, "Look, please, I'm really a wimp. Please leave me alone."
But Jack Nicholson, in an interview one time, said the same thing. That he's played so many off the wall characters that in real life people are would come up to him like
Joe
he was
Joe
the
Pesci,
Like
another
The
one.
Shining.
No.
Joe
Has
Pesci
Mark
played
mentioned has Mark
gangsters.
mentioned
He
any
wouldn't like that in
movie
real life.
made after 1980?
No.
The Goodfellas was made in the late '80s.
Okay, all right, just checking.
Yeah.
Well,
And Casino.
No for me. I mean, in that case, it's all the same.
All right, let's get into some. Well, I'll get off. Lisette's gonna wrap it up.
All right, we're gonna wrap this up.
Right.
I it made me think about Tina Turner. Oh my God. But anyway,
Tina Turner, the Ten
I
Commandments.
know. Hey, you guys, let's wrap this up. And so, what would you like to conclude with all this? What you want to say about all this sequel and best and worst, and what should we do? Should we continue with the sequels or not? Should we carry it on or?
Oh, golly, I'm so conflicted.
What are the underlying lessons behind it all? Because to make a sequel, you got to go for it. But if you're really just trying to do it for cash instead of giving the viewer an experience, the movie may not turn out well. But it'll turn out well if you're focused on the viewer experience.
Okay.
Yeah, agreed with that. But I mean, other than that, it talks to people's how many people want to go to the movies and what they expect, right? Everyone's got different tastes. Everyone likes different things. So what we may like, someone else may not like at all as a sequel. So it really just depends on people's thoughts and thoughts.
Yeah,
Interesting.
So,
well said.
I
Katie?
definitely think they should not. They should just let it go.
Single.
Leave it at number
Next
one.
one.
One movie.
and done.
keep it pushing.
Samantha?
I definitely like the creativity of not doing sequels, like starting brand new. it's hard to say because sometimes you can have a really good storyline for a sequel and then sometimes you don't. So it's kind of like 50-50.
Okay. Mark?
Not exactly something I wrestle with day in, day out. I mean, it's not exactly the most profound problem in the universe.
Yeah.
So, not hell with it. If you want to go watch a movie, fine. If not, stay home.
uh,
Keone?
I'm still waiting for that Ten Commandments
Can you
sequel.
make a movie that
Yeah,
makes
right. I
all
don't know what that was, but I don't know what Brian would say because I'm not a stick in the mud like Samantha. If it's a good movie and it's a good director, hell, make a sequel. Let me see where it goes. If it stinks, it stinks. You won't know until you watch it. So all the good sequels out there that we've seen, you wouldn't have watched it if nobody wanted to make it. What I detest more than a sequel is a unnecessary reboot. That's what I that's what I can't stand more than a sequel. I mean, some reboots, I get why they're doing it. They're trying to bring a new audience into that movie, and it does make people go back and watch like the original when that happens. But I'm less happy with reboots as I am with sequels.
Agreed.
Ivy, well, you know what? I love sequels up to a point, but I kind of like the originals.
Even
Just
the ones you can't find.
I'm, I love the original. I mean, I know that I know that the Ten Commandments is not a sequel, but anyway, to make a long story short, I love that movie. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, if you want to go see a sequel, go for it. But um, if it's a good movie and you're not gonna make it better, just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. How about that? You do it. You do it.
Oh,
You do it.
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Don't fix it.
Bam.
There you go. It ain't broke, don't fix it.
coming out in the year 2024, the sequel. It's called 15 Commandments.
starring with